Hello and welcome back to the GCN Racing News Show. Lloydie is away this week, but he's creating an exciting documentary that will be available very soon. And so, we're not yet in February, but the season is in full swing. We've had racing galore in both the northern and southern hemispheres, including a high-altitude showdown at the Vuelta at San Juan, the birth of a new Mallorca Challenge star, the return of the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Races for the first time since 2020, and the final World Cup Cyclo-cross event of the season. Oh, and some big news in the career of one Peter Sagan. That and more on this week's Racing News Show. To kick off this week, Peter Sagan has announced that the 2023 season will be his final year as a World Tour racer. The Slovak made the official announcement on his YouTube channel. The announcement comes almost 13 years after Sagan took his first World Tour victory back in 2010 at Paris-Nice. However, Sagan isn't retiring from bike racing entirely. He'll switch his focus to the mountain bike in 2024, specifically targeting the Olympic Games in Paris. Here's what he said on his decision to call time on his career.
Peter, how are you feeling after announcing you are retiring from cycling?
Well, I'm feeling as before. Still, I have another year in the front, and then I have another year on the mountain bike. Then I still have to do a lot.
How came this decision?
The time is passing, and you know, I was always saying when I was 20s and I become professional on the road, I said, nice, too hard sport. Until 30 I can keep going, but after 30 I'm going to finish. And today I'm 33 and I still have another year in the front to finish. Then I think it's already time. And then when I was a kid, I started with mountain bike when I was 9 years old. And I said, that's my real passion. I want to finish with mountain bike. I don't want to finish with last race. Like what is gonna be, World Championships on the road bike, or yeah, World Championship on the road bike. Or maybe this year, what is the last race? Lombardia is not my style. Vuelta. I would like to finish on mountain bike. That's something what I start to do, and I want to finish with that.
Now, I don't know about you, but when I look back at Peter Sagan's career, he really was the first of a new breed of rider for me. He could do it all. And his three-peat in 2015, 2016 and 2017 at the World Championships road race is a feat that I can't see being broken, ever. Among his accomplishments in the World Tour, he won 12 Tour de France stages to go with a record-breaking 7 green jerseys. He won 2 monuments, the Tour of Flanders in 2016 and Paris-Roubaix in 2018. And again, just to outline his supreme consistency, he finished in the top 5 of a monument on 13 occasions. Of course, he still has the remainder of 2023 to add to those mind-boggling accomplishments too. If only for his entertaining riding style and sense of humour, I'm sure we'll all miss him at the world's biggest races one way or another. Now, the latest in the ever-changing transfer saga that is Nairo Quintana. Nairo Man called an announcement of his own last week, with many expecting the 32-year-old to end his search for a new team and move into retirement. However, the Colombian's message was the polar opposite of Sagan's, with Quintana stating that he is planning to stay in shape and fight on as he searches for a new team with whom he can compete in the biggest races on the calendar. Now, to the latest racing. The Vuelta at San Juan began with a messy stage won by Sam Bennett, which we illustrated in last week's show, but the race continued with another chance for the sprinters on stage 2, and it was redemption for Soudal Quickstep. Some fine early lead-out work from Remco Evenepoel placed Fabio Jakobsen in a good position, and the European champion sprinted to his first victory of the season. He beat out Fernando Gaviria and the fast-finishing Jon Aberasturi. On to stage 3, which concluded on the Autodromo de Velicium race circuit, and the sprinters were the favourites again. However, Quinn Simmons made a late dig for victory and left the peloton in his wake with no more than a kilometre to go. Max Verschesi went after him but just couldn't find the wheel, and the sprinters left it too late in a thrilling drag to the finish line. That's the American's first victory since the Tour de Wallonie in 2021, and I'm expecting some big performances from him this season. He could be one to watch at Strade Bianche. On to stage 4, and the sprinting field was heavily reduced by the steady gradients and high altitude early on, putting the likes of Sam Bennett, Giacomo Nizzolo and Elia Viviani all out of contention. Pippo Ganna went for a flyer with around 400 metres to go, an effort which would eventually earn the Italian third place after he was hunted down by Fernando Gaviria, who dialed in his first race for Movistar at the 4th call. That's the Colombian's 9th stage victory at the race. Meanwhile, Peter Sagan finished second for the 111th time in his career. The riders then enjoyed a rest day, which is a peculiarity at this race, being only 7 stages long, but they'd need it with the giant Alto del Colorado looming on stage 5. The climb's gradients aren't particularly menacing, but the whopping altitude at over 2,600 metres would punish any mistakes. Remco Evenepoel was the first big name to attack with just under 10 kilometres remaining. The world champ opened up a fair lead. However, the Ineos Grenadiers were quick to set up a train and hunt him down. And with 7.5 kilometres left, he was reabsorbed and thrown out the back of the group. Miguel Angel Lopez struck out, not so recognisable in his new Team Medellin jersey, but he certainly is known for his ability at high altitude. His decisive move came with 6 kilometres left. Sergio Higuita was the final rider to drop from his wheel with 5 kilometres to go, and Superman rode away to claim his first win in Medellin colours. Meanwhile, the towering Pippo Ganna remarkably rode into 2nd place. Higuita finished 3rd with Egan Bernal just behind. Great to see after that horrendous crash which decimated his 2022 season. Shout out to Aina Rubio, who finished well. Stage 6 came around and the sprinters were back to the fore. A wide, straight road allowed for multiple teams to place their sprinters well. Team DSM had 4 riders present with 500 metres to go. Nicholas Markle and Tobias Lund Andreasen were there to place Sam Welsford, while Kevin Vermaerke shielded Welsford's back wheel. Danny van Poppel was the final lead-out rider to pull off, and with Fabio Jakobsen and Sam Bennett set to battle for victory, Welsford powered past them both to finish in fine fashion. The fast-finishing Fernando Gaviria was 3rd, just behind Sam Bennett. The final stage of the race was a circuit around San Juan, and the route suited the sprinters. That didn't stop Quinn Simmons and Remco Evenepoel attempting an audacious attack off the front with 15 kilometres left. However, the peloton controlled things well and reeled them in at the 3-kilometre mark. Team DSM were again to the fore. They had their entire 6-man team on the front as the race passed under the Flamme Rouge. Giacomo Nizzolo jumped early, but Sam Welsford timed his sprints perfectly again to make it 2 in a row ahead of a star-studded sprint field. That's the first time that Team DSM have won 2 stages in a row at a stage race since 2016 at the Tour of Hainan. Thanks to Statner, Killian Kelly for that one. Meanwhile, on the barriers, Fabio Jakobsen collided with a fan who was filming the race on their phone. The phone and Jakobsen's glasses went flying, but fortunately, the European champion stayed upright before rolling across the line in 2nd. Now, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. The UCI need to be doing their utmost to protect sprinters in what is usually a chaotic finale, while fans attending races must also respect the close proximity with which they're given to riders. On to the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road races now. Let's begin with the women's race, and a reduced peloton entered the short but sharp Calambra Crescent with 10 kilometres left. Amanda Spratt attacked and was followed by FDJ's new signing, Los Adageists, in what would prove to be the decisive move. The duo worked well to sustain their lead, and entering the final kilometre, it was clear they'd duke it out for victory. But Adagais played it cool and remained glued to the back wheel of Spratt as the pace in the lead group disintegrated. Adagais kicked with around 200 metres remaining and held Spratt off despite surrendering that all-important slipstream. A thrilling finale with the duo eventually holding off the chasing group by a matter of seconds. That was followed by the men's race, and a large group entered the Calambra Crescent together this time. 2020 winner Dries Stevenens opened things up, but Sven-Erik Byström attacked over the top of the climb. He was soon joined by Mario Schmid, and suddenly we had a scenario which very much mirrored the women's event. 2 riders clear with a large group hunting them down. Unfortunately for Byström and Schmid, that was where the similarities between the races ended, and they were caught with no more than a few hundred metres remaining. From there, Team DSM's Marius Meyerhofer sprinted to a surprise victory. That's the 22-year-old's first in the pro ranks. Hugo Page was second, with Simon Clark in third place. Next, to the series of Mallorca Challenge one-day races. Among the stars here, Julian Alaphilippe, who has been publicly piled under pressure by team boss Patrick Lefevere. Last year, he won 2 times, the year before that 3 and 4 times. I didn't take him into the team for that, Lefevere said. Of course, Alaphilippe did suffer a heavy crash at Liège-Bastogne-Liège and was unable to finish the Vuelta a España, so I'm not sure Lefevere's criticism is entirely fair, but it's the management style he's become so well known for, and you can't argue with the team's success down the years. Anyway, Alaphilippe was one of the 4 Soudal Quick-Step riders to make the decisive move in the Trofeo Calvia. Pre-race favourites Brandon McNulty and Tim Wellens crashed on a treacherous descent. The early breakaway move was strong, with Ben Healy and Pascal Encorn the strongest. The duo dropped their breakaway companions before they were joined by Rui Costa and Louis Vivarca. Vivarca tried a solo move but was reeled in by Costa and Healy, with Encorn unable to follow at this point. Soudal Quick-Step found themselves in a tricky position here, with Vivarca up the road and 3 riders behind, including the fast-finishing Casper Pedersen. With the chasers closing in, Ben Healy accelerated to secure a top 3 place, foregoing his chances of victory, and former world champion Rui Costa sprinted to win in his first Intermarché Wanty appearance. The Trofeo Alcudia was next and suited the sprinters. This is where Biniam Girmay began his rise to stardom last year. He was a favourite again this year, particularly with Mike Teunissen now on lead-out duty. However, the finish was highly technical, and Marijn van den Berg seemed to do his homework best of all. He took the final corner in first position and suddenly was across the finish line. Ethan Vernon was second, with Girmay third, but there were numerous complaints from riders about the proximity of the final corner to the finish. Onwards, though, to the Trofeo Andrax. At 14.4 kilometres and 6.1%, the Col de Puy-Major would sort things out. And by the top, the uber-talented Kian Urchbrooks and Kobe Goossens were at the head of the race. The duo collaborated well, but it was the more experienced Goossens who was more comfortable on the descent in tricky conditions. Goossens was solo, and no one could get near the Belgian, who had time to consider the very first winning celebration of his pro career. Peleo Sanchez-Meao and Lennart van Eetvelt were the next best, around 40 seconds down. The 4th day brought about the Trofeo Serra de Tramontana. The route was altered due to adverse weather conditions, but the Col de Feminis would still make a selective race. And by the time the run into the finish came about, a group of 10 riders, including Hugh Carthy, Brandon McNulty and João Almeida, were out front. Intermarché Wanty had 2 riders, and the first to attack was Lilian Calmejean. He was unable to create any substantial separation, but no doubt weakened the field for Kobe Goossens to kick clear. Remarkably, Goossens doubled his career win tally just 24 hours after claiming his first pro win. Clearly, the 26-year-old is one to watch. Neo-pro Lennart van Eetvelt was second in his 2nd podium in a row, with Ilan van Wilder third for Soudal Quick-Step. The 5th and final day in Mallorca, and the sprinters were at the front again for the Trofeo Palma. Nacer Bouhanni wasn't present though, after he crashed out with 3 kilometres left. The Frenchman missed the bulk of last season after a nasty crash at the Tour of Turkey, so hopefully the head and rib injuries he sustained aren't serious, and we'll see Bouhanni back racing soon. Nonetheless, Soudal Quick-Step dominated the front of the pack, and Florian Seneschal rounded the all-important hairpin first with 500 metres to go. Davide Ballerini then delivered Ethan Vernon to perfection, who got himself off the mark for the season after holding off the fast-finishing Biniam Girmay. The Grand Prix Marseillaise also took place this Sunday. A reduced group were together with 14 kilometres to go when EF's Nielsen Paulus attacked on the descent of the Col de la Gineste. A lack of cooperation allowed the American to open up a humongous lead, so much so that he could consider his celebration by the time the Flamme Rouge came about. That's Paulus's 3rd career victory and 1st in France. Valentin Ferron pipped Brent Van Meer to 2nd place in a close sprint for the podium positions behind. With now just less than 1 week until the Cyclo-cross World Championships in Hoogerheide, this weekend presented the final opportunity for the racers to fine-tune their form. The signs are encouraging for arguably the 4 most dominant riders this season: Fem van Empel, Wout van Aert, Puck Pieterse and Mathieu van der Poel, who all took victories. Van Empel elected to race the X2O trophy in Hammer instead of the Besançon World Cup. She's already scored enough World Cup points to secure the overall win. and she very much found the technical nature to her liking, finishing over a minute clear of Shirin van Anrooij. Wout van Aert was able to use the heavy sections of the hammer course to move himself forward and away from the field to take a measured solo victory. On Sunday, Pieterse rallied back from an early mechanical to win in Besançon. It was impressive to see how calmly she dealt with the setback to drag herself back to the front of the race. Mathieu van der Poel played things cool in the first half of the men's race before launching a savage attack on this climb to gain a large gap, which he maintained until the end. The battle for second was fierce. Laurens Wake, the World Cup winner-elect, managed to push clear for second, and Joris Nieuwenhuis denied Clement Venturini a podium at his home World Cup event. Shout out to Steve Chanel, who raced the final race of his career in front of home fans, a man who has been at the forefront of French cyclo-cross for the last 20 years or so. Happy retirement, Steve. That sets us up very nicely for the World Championships next weekend. Marianne Vos will not be present, sadly, due to injury, but we should be in for some classic battles for the elite titles, and as always, the under-23 and junior categories should be very close. That'll be available to watch this weekend on GCN+. Territory restrictions do apply. The Saudi Tour begins today. Dylan Groenewegen, Pascal Ackermann and Santi Buitrago are among the riders present. Stage 4 looks to be the key GC day, with a 2.9-kilometre climb featuring sections up to a whopping 23%, before finishing on the sky view of Herat Yerwarid. That's where Maxime Van Hils won solo last year on his way to overall victory. All of the stages are available in Europe and Asia Pacific, excluding China, Japan and New Zealand. It's also live in the US. The men's Volta Valenciana also begins on Wednesday. The start list isn't finalised at the time of recording, but Mikel Landa and Juan Ayuso are among the riders rumoured to kick off their campaign there. There are climbs aplenty, so expect numerous action-packed stages in the race for overall victory. The sprinters may finally get their chance on the 92-kilometre stage finishing in Valencia on Sunday, if they can get over the La Frontera ascent, which is 5.2 kilometres at 9%, but comes some way from the finish line. The women's Volta Valenciana is a one-day race which will take place on Sunday this week. The parcours are identical to the fifth stage of the men's race. Marta Bastianelli won here last year, but the start list is very much still up in the air. I'm expecting to see a reduced group vying for victory in a sprint. Both of those races are available worldwide. We also have Étoile de Bessèges live. That race starts on Wednesday. Thibaut Pinot is expected to kick off what will be his final season on the road there. Mads Pedersen and Benoit Cosnefroid are among the other big names included on the provisional start list. That one is available for all of you, unless you're in Belgium, Denmark, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, Spain, the UK or France. Unlucky Europe, I guess. Meanwhile, our documentary coming out this week is called There Will Be Mud. I was treated to a little preview of this film last week, and it's a must-watch. Mitch Docker raced on the road for 15 years, but headed to Belgium this winter to give cyclo-cross a go, learning from an all-star cast of mentors, including Sven Nys, Shirin van Anrooij and Puck Pieterse, and even visiting his good friend and all-round nice bloke, Heinrich Hausler. That'll be available for you to watch tomorrow.
I know nothing about cyclo-cross.
I've never seen this in a cross race. What are you supposed to do?
So, how the hell did I get here?
That's Mitch Docker. His shape is good, his skills are bad.
I'm in too hard a gear.
I'm going to ride with past legends
He was like sideways, look.
and current superstars to master the skills.
How do you do it?
Muscle memory, I think.
Oh, they're off. How fast did they go?
They're a different breed, they have a different motor, they have a different engine.
They need to have a good condition, aerobic endurance, anaerobic endurance, explosivity, sprint capability, and so on.
Holy shit. I can't keep up.
The routes for both the women's and men's UE Tour have been revealed. Both feature a mountaintop finish on Jebel Hafit, which I'm sure will be the key GC day in both races. In other news this week, David Gaudu was forced to apologise to his teammate Arnaud Dumas on Twitter after images were leaked of Gaudu stating that he doesn't want Dumas to be at the Tour de France this year on a Discord server. My remarks should never have been made in a public setting. I apologise to the team and to Arnaud, Godou wrote. Right, that's all for this week. How good does it feel to have a plethora of racing back on our screens? We'll be back next week to round everything up as always. Goodbye for now.